Okay, so if you are watching this video, you have missed a lecture on the Catholic Reformation. And so you need to have out your notebook. You need to be taking notes by hand as if you were in class. And then you can come to me after you watch this video and I can kind of review things for you a little bit. But you have to show me that you've taken notes, not just looked at the PowerPoint, but actually taken notes and added things to things that I've said, not just the bullet points on this PowerPoint. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, you guys need to always, this unit is called the Protestant Reformation. What is the Protestant Reformation? If you don't know what that means yet, go back, look into your notes. Pause, look into your notes. The Protestant Reformation was a time period in which people protested against who? The Catholic Church. Because they felt like the Catholic Church they were resentful of, the popes only ever coming out of Italy, and the Catholic Church was limiting people's ability to make a profit. They were banning the practice of usury, which was the ability to earn profit on a loan by charging interest. That made a lot of people mad. Let's see. Priests were marrying, people were buying and selling church offices, people were buying and selling tickets to heaven. What was that called again? That was called tickets to heaven, indulgences. Right? So there's a lot of corruption, and I probably even forgot some. But all of a sudden we're starting to see people, not the majority of people, but some people switch from Catholicism to Protestantism. So on this map, you can kind of see England, they changed for a completely different reason. The king just breaks from Rome because he needs a divorce, and the Pope won't grant him one. If you recall, what's his name? Henry the Eighth, right? Martin Luther wrote the 95 Theses against the sale of indulgences in the Holy Roman Empire, what is now today Germany, and he started the Protestant Reformation, and Calvin spread it. All the purple you can see is where Calvinism spread. So it spread in France, spread a little bit. Sorry, when I say purple, I mean the darker purple. In Scotland, it spread in Geneva. This is kind of where he set up his theocracy. Spread a little bit over here. So all of a sudden, the Catholic Church is losing a lot of power. The more people leave the Catholic Church, less supporters they have. And they once had a monopoly. They were once the only church that you could belong to if you were Christian, which everyone was during this time period. And they all had to give 10% of their income. And so all of a sudden they're getting less money, they're losing influence, they're losing power, and they're afraid they're going to keep losing it. So this is the time period that we call the Catholic Counter-Reformation. So again, Reformation just means to reform, a time period of reform. And what does reform mean again? Underline it. It means to fix for the better, right? To change for the better. Counter means against. So maybe write counter against. So the Catholic Counter-Reformation, the Catholic Church, write this down, is reforming itself to counter the Protestant Reformation. So the Catholics are reforming themselves to keep people as part of the Catholic Church so that they don't protest against the Catholic Church and turn to Protestantism. They are losing power as the Protestants leave the Catholic Church. They don't want them to leave. They're like, oh, wait, we'll fix ourselves if you just stay. All right? That's what they're trying to do. So that's what we're going to talk about in this lecture video. We're going to talk about some ways that the Catholic Church reforms itself. So as I was saying, the spread of the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, was spreading quickly. And mostly because of not, of course, the big thinkers like Martin Luther and Calvin, but their ideas are being printed for the first time in history on the printing press, the Gutenberg printing press. And of course, what book is going to be printed first? The Bible. But not only that, they're starting to print the Bible in what is called the vernacular. Spell it out. V-E-R-N, V-E-R-N-A, vernac, U-L-A-R, vernacular. Vernacular just means English, French, German, not Latin. people don't read, some people read Latin, but we don't speak Latin anymore. But for a long time, all the Bibles were only in Latin, and therefore only the priests and those trained in reading it could read it to the people. All of a sudden, there's going to be a big push by people like Martin Luther and John Calvin to print the Bible in other languages that people can actually read for themselves and understand it, and not need someone like a priest of the Catholic Church to read the Bible to you. And so that was really important. It helped make Christianity more accessible if more people can actually read it, right? And we're going to see propaganda printed by both the Protestants and the Catholics at this time period. And the printing press, what made it so important is, yes, it was still a long process, but it made Bibles cheaper, and it made it so that you could print a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. If you didn't have a printing press, something like this, if you wanted a new Bible, there's going to be a monk somewhere in a monastery writing it all by hand. Just imagine, what if you can't read his handwriting? What if he messes up? Which is bound to happen at one point in this thing, right? All of a sudden, we're going to see the increase of more Bibles significantly, and we're going to see the growth of literacy. People are going to be able to read more books, and Protestants are going to encourage people to read the Bible. Now, when I say encourage people, peasants for a very long time, still in mass numbers, are not going to be able to read. But maybe more people in the middle class or even upper class that are just not part of the clergy, meaning they're not part of the church. More people are going to start to learn how to read the Bible for themselves with the beginning of Protestantism. So this is a very faint picture of Europe, right? But what we're seeing is we're starting to see countries become divided by religion. We're going to see Lutherans. So if this is the Holy Roman Empire, what is now today Germany, we're going to see Lutherans. Yep, see that shade? Lutherans are going to convert in the northern part of the Holy Roman Empire in northern Germany, and that's going to lead to some problems. People don't like. Religion for thousands of years was considered a unifying force. If we all believe one thing, we're a stronger country because of it. And if we all believe one thing, it's likely that if we all believe what the king believes, we'll all be very loyal to him, right? Well, if all of a sudden half your people are saying, "Oh, I don't agree with you," kings don't like that. They want to use religion as a unifying force. But in the Holy Roman Empire, half the princes in northern Germany convert to a different form of Christianity. That's going to lead to a lot of religious intolerance, and it's going to lead to war, which we're going to talk about next class. So we got Calvinists over here in Geneva in Switzerland, also in the Netherlands, also in Scotland. Spain controls the Netherlands, and Spain is very, very Catholic. And also they go into France. Calvinists convert in France too, which is also still very Catholic. So it's going to lead to a lot of religious wars. Protestants view Catholics as heretics, right? People who are not following Christianity like they should, and vice versa. Catholics are viewing Protestants as, heretics, and they're going to try to burn them at the stake and behead them, and things like that. So it's not a pretty time period. All right. So what happens is the Catholic Church is really worried that they're losing a lot of power, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to make an effort to reform itself and reassert its authority. So for instance, say you guys were all really mad at me, you hated me, you're starting to rebel. And so I don't lose my job. I say, I give you guys a little speech and I say, all right, here are some fixes that I'm going to do. Are you guys happy? Are you not going to rebel against me anymore? That's kind of what they're trying to do. And so what they do is they meet in 1545, and they meet over, a couple of decades. But they meet at what is called the Council of Trent. And at the Council of Trent, they make changes. Um, and they, but you got to keep in mind, it's really hard for someone or an institution that is always used to having a lot of power to um, admit that they were wrong, right? How many times do your parents admit that they're wrong to you, even if they're wrong? Maybe, but it will be few and far between, right? They will not do it often. So that's what they're kind of trying to do. They're trying to make changes so that people stay Catholic, but they're also not going to go so far as to say we were wrong. We're like, all right, we'll make some changes, but we're also at the same time going to reaffirm our beliefs. What does reaffirm mean? It means restate with authority, right? Yeah, let's make some changes, but we were never wrong. We were always right at the end of the day, is kind of what they're trying to say. Reaffirm Catholic doctrine at the same time. One second. Okay, so let me go back. Let's go to the changes. So some of the changes, right? An extra bullet point underneath the changes. They're going to abolish the sale of indulgences. Martin Luther, he started his own religion because the church was selling indulgences, selling tickets to heaven, which was nowhere to be found in the Bible. But people didn't know any better because they couldn't read the Bible for themselves. Seminaries were established to better train priests. Part of the problem is that the priests were so uneducated themselves that they were teaching the wrong stuff. That was not great either. And so that's good. Seminaries, they're essentially a school, like a college for the priests to teach them and to train them better. They're going to crack down on things like simony and priest marriages, right? Crack down on the buying and selling of church offices. Crack down on priests marrying. Crack down on the rules blatantly being unfollowed by members of the Catholic Church, right? So kind of like the big ones. But they're also going to, at the same time, make a couple bullet points down here. They're going to claim that Calvin and Luther are wrong about salvation. They're going to say, no. Salvation, remember, means you're going to get to go to heaven. You can only go to heaven, they say, through faith and good works combined. So write that down. Faith and good works combined in order to go to heaven. You can pause it, rewind it, So Luther, when he was talking, he just said, all you need is to believe. It's to believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and that he rose again and that he'll come again. Right? That's all you have to believe in order to have a chance at salvation. The Catholic Church is not what they believe. They believe you have to believe that, but you also have to follow the rules. You can't go to heaven if you sin all the time, right? You have to do good works. You have to give to charity. You have to do all these things in addition to believing in order to have salvation. It's a little bit more structured than Protestantism. Also, another bullet point. The Bible could not be interpreted by all, is what they reaffirm, right? They say only church officials can interpret the Bible. That's important for them because that's kind of how the structure of the Catholic Church has been set up. They're like, and they don't want to lose that power. It's kind of like me saying, no, only I can be your teacher. You can only learn history through me. When in reality, some of you are smart enough, and if you are, you should probably go to AP. But some of you could say, I'm not going to go to class anymore. I'm just going to read the textbook for myself. And I'm saying, no, you can't do that. You have to learn from me. I'm the only one that can actually teach it, right? So that's kind of what they're saying about the Bible. No, only church officials can interpret the Bible. Lay people who are not part of the church, are not going to be able to do it correctly and really understand what it means. It has to be through us. We have to be the ones that teach what the Bible says. No one else can do it. Whereas Luther and Calvin were saying, everyone should be able to read the Bible and understand what it means for themselves. They shouldn't have to rely on some uneducated priest to teach it, right? So that's the second bullet point, is the Bible cannot be interpreted by all, only by church officials. Pause it, write that down. All right, the third bullet point for ideas that are reaffirming the Catholic Church is that priests do have a special relationship with God. So, Martin Luther, the Protestant, says everyone's equal under God. The peasant is equal to the priest. We're all equal in the eyes of God, is what Martin Luther was saying. That's not what they're saying. They're saying, no, priests are the intermediaries between God and the people. They're higher up on God's list than the people, which makes sense, according to like how it's always been structured to them. So they're gonna make those changes, like cracking down on priest marriages and abolishing the sale of indulgences. But they're not going to go so far as to say, when it comes to their beliefs and their authority, that we were wrong and that you shouldn't listen to us anymore, right? So it would be like if I'm in front of you saying, all right, guys, I know you've been really upset about this. How about I give you guys a review day before every test? And how about I grade more fair or less harsh? But at the same time, I can still give you detention. I'm still the teacher. You still have to show up and do what you're supposed to do. That's kind of what they're doing at the Council of Trent, right? Some other changes that are going to take place is the Jesuits, or sometimes we call it the Society of Jesus, the Order of Jesus. It's actually it's a society founded by this guy. His name's Ignatius Loyola. And the Society of Jesuits essentially is a missionary organization for Catholicism. So it's their goal to stop the spread of Protestantism. It's their goal to reconvert Protestants back to Catholicism. Write these down, bullet points, underneath Society of Jesus. It's their goal to spread Catholic doctrines, beliefs around the world. So they're going to go into other areas of the world and spread it, even into Asia. And they're also going to set up schools to help accomplish this, right? They're going to set up Catholic schools, right? We sometimes in private schools, even today, it's still pretty popular. They're often Catholic if you are Catholic. Not all private schools are Catholic, but there's still plenty of them. And that was kind of the idea, to keep people in the faith and to convert people into the faith, and to strengthen the Catholic Church. And that was all started with him during the Catholic Reformation. So that's a good, loving way to go about, converting people. Hopefully they were converting willingly, but that's one way to keep people, or to stop the spread of Protestantism, is to create a missionary organization and spread schools. But another way you can do it is you could do it through the Inquisition. The Inquisition was really strong in Spain. So some people even call it the Spanish Inquisition, but it existed probably in other countries as well. In the Inquisition, it's going to try to reestablish and reinforce Catholic doctrine by finding heretics and torturing them. Write down, so goal, find heretics, accusing them of heresy, remember, going against Catholic order, and torturing them. So here is one form of torture. You put their limbs and tie them to a wheel, put them over fire, and you slowly roll them over the fire like a little rotisserie chicken. Or another way is you hang them from the ceiling, you tie their hands behind their back, and it kind of dislocates people's shoulders. And from there, here's the thing. This isn't like a super just system. If you just don't like somebody, you can just accuse them of heresy in Spain, and they will be tortured. And they have two options when they're tortured. They could die. That's one option. Or they could recant and confess and apologize for something that they may or may not have even believed, right? They could have just been accused of this and it wasn't even true. But they could just, people under torture situations will often admit to things that they didn't even do so that they can stop the pain. And that's another thing. But, say you really are a Protestant and you get accused of heresy by these Catholics, and it's truly what you believe, like you're a Lutheran, some people, they were willing to die for what they believed. Others, not so much. But, you could either go about stopping the spread of Protestantism through missionary stuff, which is all happy-go-lucky, or you can torture people. That's the other side of it. Oh, yeah. This is just more forms of torture. And sometimes it's not always through torture. Sometimes it's through just embarrassment. There was the dunce cap, which was like the super pointy cap, and they make you like sit in the corner and like everyone laughs at you, right? And yeah. So summary, the Council of Trent, you guys got to know that, underline it, reaffirmed Catholic doctrine. They're trying to say things like the Protestants are wrong, while also making some changes to keep people from becoming Protestant. They're trying to stop the spread of Protestantism. While at the same time, they're also going to try to spread Catholicism, right? The Society of Jesus, they built schools, they sent missionaries around the world. And the third goal was to stamp out heresy, right? Trying to find those traitors and make people stay Catholic through fear and torture. Not so pretty. But all because some people like Martin Luther are saying, hey, here are some problems with the Catholic Church. And when I say, and just a reminder, as I'm talking about this, if you're Catholic today, that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with the Catholic Church today. This is 1500. This is like 500 years ago. And the Catholic Church was once the strongest, only religion in all of Western Europe for the most part. And so any organization or person who has that much power is probably going to eventually abuse that power. It's not saying anything about the Catholic Church today. This is just a history. Former presidents have abused power in the past, and we try to hold them accountable in our system, but it just happens. It's just human nature to, when you have so much power, to kind of try to get more power and try to, I'm not saying anything bad about the Catholic Church today at all. I'm just trying to tell you this is how it all happened, and this is why there are so many other forms of Christianity other than Catholicism today. But, by the mid-1500s, so about 50 years later, many of the most powerful countries, they were still Catholic. Spain, Holy Roman Empire, France, not so much England anymore. But we're going to see religious wars because Protestantism is spreading. And that will be the next lecture. So take your time. If you miss some of the changes, if you miss some of the reaffirmations, go back and pause the video as I say them. Okay, thank you for watching, and go and make sure, see what classwork there is, see what homework there is.